What does it all mean?
This is where the archaeology has been found.
Oh, hi, how are you? Well, look at that.
I need a planter. A shrine to a belly button.
This is a rock salt?
Look at that.
No one gets into this place. No one. Whoa, don't take me too far. Now that's naked archaeology.
I've been thinking about Sodom and Gomorrah lately. I don't know about you, but when I watch the news, I think about Sodom and Gomorrah. I think about a nuclear apocalypse.
If you remember the story, there's Lot, Abraham's nephew. He's in these two sinful cities by the Dead Sea, the lowest place on earth. And God says, I'm going to destroy them.
Is there any archaeology to back up the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? I'm on a quest to find out.
The Bible describes 5 sinful cities called the cities of the plain. God rains fire down on them, but he allows Lot and his family to escape. On one condition, they must not look back. Lot's wife disobeys and is transformed into a pillar of salt. Lot and his daughters now take refuge in a cave outside the city of Zoar, the only one of the 5 cities not destroyed. And there, believing they are the last people on earth, the daughters get their father drunk and set about repopulating the planet with their children, who the Bible calls Moabites and Ammonites. You have to admit that the story of Lot and his daughters does sound strange. Okay, more than strange, maybe a little creepy.
I don't know if many people stop you on the street and ask you about Lot's daughters. Do you know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah?
If really Lot would sleep with his 2 daughters, so we all would look like this, something. Everybody
because
would
of the
crawl. Yeah, because of the genes. And
Do you know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah?
I know the story. The Naked Archaeologist is perfect for Sodom and Gomorrah.
You know, pharaohs married their daughters all the time, yeah. They look pretty weird if you look at the mummies, but
with his head like this.
The head was a little, but you know, we're not going to look too good 5,000 years from now either.
In fact, the story of Lot and his daughters is so strange that archaeologists and scholars say they never even existed. Not even a trace of the 5 cities of the plain could be found. So scholars came up with a whole other explanation.
The Bible was totally against the daughters of Lot. The way they are presented to the reader, first of all, the fact that they were the last ones on earth. They should have asked their father. He knew very well that just Sodom and Gomorrah are being ruined and the whole world is still there. So there was no reason to do it. And then when the son is born, or the 2 sons are born, Moav, meaning Me'av, from my father. My grandfather's actually son. Telling the whole world I am a result of incest. Of course, that's a story that has been told by the Israelites in order to keep them as far as possible from the Ammonites and the Moabites. The Bible wants to separate us from these peoples, and the best way to separate us from these people is to tell us, look, they are a result of incest. You don't want to mingle with these guys.
So is it just a biblical warning? A story that makes the Moabites and Ammonites look bad? I think there's more to it than just ancient propaganda. But to prove that the story happened, you'd first have to find the places where it happened. Sodom and Gomorrah and Zoar. And maybe even the cave where Lot and his daughters hid out. But archaeologists say that if evidence exists, it could be anywhere. Maybe even as far away as Iraq.
Are the cops after us?
So if I'm going to find them, I'm going to need a map, a really old map. And Jordan has the very best of the ancient maps. This is the Church of St. George. Every year, thousands of tourists come here to see the 6th century mosaic map on its floor. But what most don't realize is that the map is key to decoding some of the biggest archaeological mysteries of all time. I came here with Dr. Konstantinos Politis, who for more than 20 years has been excavating sites in Jordan related to Lot.
Jerusalem, right? Okay, let's start at the beginning. What are we looking at here?
We're looking at a floor of an ancient Christian church made out of mosaics, cut stones, and it has a map of the ancient Holy Land, of the early Christian Holy Land, 5th, 6th century AD. And it's unique. There's no other map like this.
But what's amazing to me is that it doesn't just depict things, it actually labels them.
Well, label is the right word. It's exactly. This is why it's so important. It's telling us what these buildings are and the location.
So is it fair to say in a way that you can use it almost like a treasure map, like let's locate, you know, whatever, the Nea or the Modin or...
Definitely, definitely. Also, it works the other way around. You may find an archaeological site and try to fit it into this map.
With the help of this map, archaeologists have uncovered the first hard evidence that one of the cities of the plain really did exist.
Where would Sodom be? And how would you know that?
Well, we don't know exactly where Sodom is, or Gomorrah for that matter, but we do have one of the cities of the plain here, Zoar, which survives, labeled here on the map, and the one that was not destroyed.
When God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah?
Sodom and Gomorrah, yes.
Interestingly, it's on the map as a city which wasn't destroyed should be, and the other ones are not.
We have no label or identification on this map of where Sodom or Gomorrah were. But that's, for the moment, the only other evidence we have that it's parallel or correlates with the Old Testament story of Sodom and Gomorrah.
For years, archaeologists and scholars have insisted that the story of Lot was fiction because no evidence of it was found outside of the Bible.
But it must be true. I saw it in this book right here.
So I'll clean up this map and follow the ancient clue that tells us that not far from Madaba, there should be evidence of Lot.
Look at this dirt. I can't believe it. I would keep this mosaic a lot cleaner.
Well, you got the job.
He's a tall, tall man. He's a tall, tall man.
I'm traveling through southern Jordan looking for archaeological evidence that the story of Lot and his daughters and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah might be true. While some scholars still insist that the only evidence of the cities of the plain is in the Bible, there's evidence on an ancient mosaic map that one of the cities should be at the southern end of the Dead Sea in Jordan. And when archaeologists followed this trail, they found an ancient city right where the map said it should be. Dr. Konstantinos Politis is in charge of the excavations at this site.
So we've just entered the city of Zoar. This is one of the gates of Zoar.
We're in the gate.
We're inside the gate. This is actually the top of it, so we would have been above our head. Another couple of meters down is the actual floor.
So Lot would have walked below us.
Perhaps. I mean, these stones actually belong to a much later Christian medieval period. But down below, when we finish our excavations, hopefully we'll find the Bronze Age period.
Do you doubt that you'd find the Bronze Age period?
Well, no, because we've got an Iron Age site. So we've got Bronze and Iron Age occupation material. So there must be some here too.
So is this identified as biblical Zoar?
We have inscriptions from the Christian period and from later periods that identify this as the city of Zoar.
The evidence suggests that this is the city that Lot fled to. Somewhere in the mountains near here, there must be a cave where Lot and his daughters, well, I'm sure you haven't forgotten that part of the story. Even so, when asked about the story of Lot and his daughters, most scholars said,
This is nonsense.
although Zoar existed, they said, not one single mention of Sodom or Gomorrah could be found anywhere outside the book of Genesis. But in 1979, archaeologists found a 5,000-year-old library in the deserts of Syria. 15,000 inscribed clay tablets, a royal library at Ebla. Royal letters, dictionaries, school texts, and evidence that Sodom and Gomorrah existed.
Biblical Zoar, it's mentioned in the Bible. You've got hard archaeology here identifying the place. You've got a map. You know, you're in a lucky place. You've got corroboration everywhere. Tell me also, you have a text in Ebla that actually dates to that time that speaks of the cities and mentions Zoar specifically.
Yes, well, the clay tablets, the texts that were found in the city of ancient city of Ebla in northern Syria are, well, one of the greatest treasures, let's say, that have been discovered in the late 20th century. And they very interestingly recount the story of Sodom and Gomorrah from Genesis in the Bible. They recount that story on one of these tablets. But what's also interesting, they mentioned the 5 cities in the same order that they are mentioned in the Bible. So it's a completely separate piece of evidence. So the oldest mention of the cities.
Non-biblical, outside of the biblical.
Outside of the biblical.
So this is a nice bit of synchronicity between the Bible, the tablets at Ebla in northern Syria, and here in Jordan, the actual site of Zoar.
Yes, the puzzle begins to come together, but it's a big puzzle.
Finally, concrete proof that a place called Sodom existed. But where should I look? It's not on any map. So I decided to go back to the source, the book of Genesis. It says that Lot left Sodom in the morning, and the sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. So Lot walked from Sodom to Zoar in less than a day. It's gotta be around here somewhere. And there's another clue in the Bible, one that synchronizes perfectly with the landscape and will help lead us to an ancient city that might be Sodom.
He's a tall, tall man. He's a tall, tall man.
I'm in southern Jordan looking for evidence of Lot and Sodom. It's 400 meters and more than 1,000 feet below sea level. It feels as though the landscape itself is evidence.
I'm standing at the Dead Sea. Actually, I'm standing in the Dead Sea, or what used to be the Dead Sea. As the waters recede, they leave behind boulders of salt. And sometimes it looks like a body part. Now, this is the place that's literally the lowest place on earth. Interestingly, the Bible describes this place as morally the lowest place on earth. This is a rock or salt? Lot's wife looked back on that terrible place and turned into a pillar of salt. This is what she got for not listening. Everything fits, except those tiny little pillars behind me, because there's no way that Lot was married to a midget.
But the question is, where's Sodom?
How can you ask such a question?
The city of Zoar has been found, but the ancient map at Meribah gives no indication of where the other cities of the plain should be. So I decided to look for more clues in the Bible. The book of Genesis says that Lot journeyed east, leaving his uncle Abraham in Canaan. And he saw the plain of Jordan that was well watered everywhere, even as the garden of the Lord. And that's where Sodom was. In the middle of this desert, I need to find a well-watered plain. And as I drove north from Zoar, I was surprised when the landscape suddenly changed. At the base of the mountains, there's a fertile plain, just as the Bible describes. And 16 miles north of Zoar, northeast of biblical Canaan, here above the fertile part of the Dead Sea Plain, there are the remains of a 5,000-year-old city. Yusuf Hilo has been excavating here for a decade, and he took me on a tour of what might just be Sodom.
Oh, wow.
Look at that thick wall, 4 meters wide.
That's Bronze Age.
3300 BC. Now, what do you see at the bed of this valley? Vegetation, yes or no?
Yes.
North, south, east, and west. Dead Sea is north, northwest of here. So it goes within the orientation mentioned in the Bible with regards to Abraham and Lot having a quarrel after coming from Egypt, southwest, coming here, and this is where the story of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah took place.
So let me get this straight. You tell me that it fits with the biblical story. What you're telling me is that's a Bronze Age story, Abraham?
That's a Bronze Age story.
This is a Bronze Age site.
Site, absolutely.
It fits in the geography, you're telling me, like where they separated, they came back, it fits.
Up to an extent, yes.
But now we've gone from, is Sodom here? Because I heard people say it's in Iraq, it's all over. We've gone from that to Not if it's here, where exactly is it?
You cannot tell that where exactly because the city was destroyed, remember?
Right.
You go right ahead.
All right, okay.
There's another piece of synchronicity with the Bible here. The book of Genesis says that when two angels came to take Lot away from Sodom, he met them at the gates of the city.
Spectacular. Is this the gate here?
That's the gate there.
Right there, eh?
Yes, absolutely.
This must be one of the oldest gates ever found.
Yes, I can approve less, absolutely.
Oh my goodness, look at this. This is totally spectacular. This is breathtaking. Like to be in a Bronze Age gate at a candidate for Sodom or Gomorrah at the Dead Sea, it's just amazing. Just amazing.
If this is Sodom, it's one more piece of evidence in my quest to find the truth behind the story of Lot and his daughters. The Bible says that God rained fire and brimstone on Sodom and Gomorrah. The destruction was so great that more than 1,000 years later, the historian Josephus claimed that fruit on the trees in this valley dissolved into ashes when it was picked. Here at Babedra, there's conclusive evidence that the city was destroyed by fire.
This is just, looks like the Grand Canyon. Now, let me add one more thing I want to...
Yes.
Can we tell whether this place was destroyed?
This is an early Bronze Age site, totally destroyed in 2350 by fire. We have traced through the stratigraphy.
Abandoned?
Abandoned. Right afterwards, it was never reused after that date again. And this is good. But the problem is we cannot really find the match because it's in the Bible, it's in different time, different dates.
So the destruction layer here is too early for the Abraham and Lot story.
Yes, Abraham and Lot could have been later in time. Still, I cannot decide this 100%.
From here you can walk south to Zoar in a few hours, just as the Bible says. Above Zoar are the mountains where Lot and his daughters would have taken refuge. And on the ancient mosaic map at Madaba, there's one more clue. Following it, archaeologists have made an astonishing discovery, one that suggests that the story of Lot and his daughters may be true.
I would never even think to look here.
He's a tall, tall man. He's a tall, tall man.
It turns out that all over southern Jordan, there's evidence that links the Dead Sea Plain to the story of Lot and his daughters.
I thought I told you to kill that story.
By following clues found on the ancient mosaic map at Madaba, archaeologists have uncovered the biblical city of Zoar. On the mosaic map, there's one more clue. In the mountains near Zoar, right where the Bible says Lot and his daughters took refuge, there's a place marked Lot's Sanctuary. When archaeologists began uncovering a Byzantine church here, they looked at the map and realized that this must have been the church known as Lot's Sanctuary. But why build the church here? As he excavated, Dr. Konstantinos Politis soon discovered what it was that made this site so important to early Christians.
You were just sitting over here eating lunch.
We would have our lunch just here without knowing what was below.
And then, how did you get to this?
Slowly, slowly. We excavated 1988, 89, 90, and by 1991, we found our first inscription which said, Saint Lot, please bless the builders, the actual builders of this church.
The inscriptions confirmed that this Byzantine church was in fact dedicated to Lot. But what the archaeologists found next surprised even them.
And in September the 15th, 1991, we came across the top of the cave. We had local labor, and you try to train them so they dig properly in layers, and they were digging a little bit of a hole, as they often do, and I said, don't dig holes. But sir, there's a hole here. I said, don't dig a hole. And he'd come across actually the top of the cave, and I was scolding him. But once, I realized there was a cave there, then, of course I forgot about that. And we very quickly uncovered the top of the cave, and then eventually the entire cave.
That's incredible. They changed the locks on him.
That's what happened.
They locked you out of your own dig.
But why had Christians built a church here.
Come on in, make yourself at home.
What the team found inside the cave may explain why early Christians believed this was Lot's cave and may prove to be a link to Lot himself.
So this is the cave.
This is the cave that Christians believed was Lot's cave. So we took out a wall here, found a tomb over there, and we took out the floor here. And if you can see here, down below, about a meter or two, there's another wall, very rough. We had lots of little pots and large pots, a couple of burials, some nice flints, all dating to the period of around 5,000 years ago, the same period of Baba Dra, and another couple of sites in the area. Bronze Age period.
Bronze Age is when the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is supposed to have taken place.
That's controversial. Some people date it a little bit later in that. This is the early Bronze Age.
It doesn't matter. This shows at that time, this cave, there was activity in it.
Yes.
You know, if the Byzantine Christians who built this site were correct, then this is the site where the biblical Lot took refuge with his daughters to get away from the massive cataclysmic event of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. This may be the actual spot if those traditions are correct.
Yes, and if it isn't here, it's nearby.
If it isn't here, it's nearby. What archaeologists have uncovered here shows that almost 2,000 years ago, the people who built this church believed that this was the cave that sheltered Lot and his daughters. How much further back does the tradition go? There's no way of knowing, and no way of proving that Lot actually hid here. But the geographical clues and the archaeological evidence seem to match up. It all fits the biblical story. So Lot might have stood right here, looked out from this vantage, witnessed the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and saw his world come to an end.
He's a total